Welcome to an impromptu game-changing work show with myself, Veronica, and Roxana. We decided to have one this week because we just came off birthdays. And,
Whoa!
and it was funny, we decided to try to do it on Monday,
Yeah,
this session. And then I was like, why would I want to work on my birthday when I took it off? Right? That's what we perpetuate is actually well-being. So we
exactly.
decided to do it today.
Yeah.
And what we're going to focus on, and we will share the link from a prior episode that we had, where we talked about our impact energies and how Roxanne and I actually had the same impact energy. And what do we mean by that? Is that it's an organometric where you can measure the preferred way that an individual wants to contribute to make an impact versus a psychometric, which goes into personality and behaviors. Her and I, Roxana, we were completely mesmerized of having a hypothesis out there going, how much are we actually alike? And what we found out for ourselves, now I've worked with certain groups like with DISC or whatever, and there are some people that might have some similarities. But for Roxanne and I, if you've ever watched our show, we're actually quite different in personality. And so we thought it was quite amazing about how we can show the differences when we talked about how people contribute in relation to outcomes and getting to action on business objectives. And we talk about a lot of that with the GC index. So I know that you probably need to share that screen. I don't see it up there, Roxana, if we want to get to that.
I will share
Um,
it.
okay,
Don't
so
worry.
as I'm setting things up, we are going to talk about where we were about 2 years ago, right? Where we had the exact same impact energy, our profile results. There's about like
Mhm.
100,000 different variations that are out there today. And for us, we ended up um, doing our accreditation over again, and we'll change our views here. I look like a little tiny little pea in this one view.
It's
It's like, can you see us?
no way. Okay, let me just change because I just want to share where we started from back.
Yep,
So
go
that was
ahead, take it up.
back in 2020. And the thing that I love about this is, like you said, we're so different in personality. And I always, whenever I introduce the GC index tool, I always say, look, you can be either introvert, extrovert, doesn't matter. You could have the same kind of impact and the same kind of driver, the energy driver. And for us, this is what it was. Really, you're such an extrovert. I'm more on the introverted side, but we had the exact same profile. Like this was identical. And it's hard to have an identical profile with the GC index because you have all of those numbers and combinations on a scale from 1 to 10. And we had the exact scores in, and that's why we wanted to show you what these scores are all about. When we talk about energy, we have 5 types of energies: the game changers, who are looking to transform the future; the strategists, the one who maps the future; the implementer, who builds the future; the polisher, who creates a future to be proud of; and the playmaker, who orchestrates the future. And we had the exact same profile 2 years ago.
And what that really means, just to kind of put some clarity around it, is we just said that Roxanne and I are extremely different. But the minute we got together, the way that we think and want to get to action, we were extremely alike.
Mhm.
So it was very natural for us to start working. Now, I've worked with, you've worked with even other game changers out there, and there's always this sense of like, why is it so easy to kind of talk to you about certain things? And for you and I, that was never an issue.
Yeah.
And so what we found fascinating is you work a lot with conflict management, you work with a lot understanding different personalities. There's a lot of things, and they are helpful. We're not saying it's not something that's not beneficial to do, but what we realized, and this is what we always loved about the GC index, is now it was such an easy thing. Forget about personalities, because the way we get to action and the way we think was so alike, it was very natural for us. Now, if we threw someone else in the room, right, an implementer, a strategist, or what might have you, you could see the dynamic and energy. And there's actually, we've had guests on our show where it's different. And this natural way that Roxanne and I, and how we kind of jam together, it's because it's so easy. And we are extremely different. Even we did our SCARF model. Those of you that are may or may not be familiar with the Neuro Leadership Institute, which is all about social behavior, it's quite fascinating. We probably should drop that in the link, the chat,
Yeah,
for everyone.
we will.
It's a free assessment that you can take out there. And I highly recommend it, because these are the triggers that either can put you in a reward or a threat state.
Yeah.
So Roxanne and I did that. And guess what? Completely opposite. In the sense of what are our top 3 important things to us, right? Her and I, our certainty one was pretty low. That doesn't surprise me. Both of us being game changers. But where she scored high, I think your highest one was what, relatedness?
Yes, that's
And mine's autonomy.
Mm-hmm.
And then even the second one, mine was status. And what was yours? I think it was
My,
fairness.
yeah, fairness. And my third was autonomy, which for you
Yeah.
was the first.
And my third was fairness.
Yeah.
And so we started to do this on a lot of them. We did the predictive index, which I was a promoter. You were a maverick.
Yeah.
We did, what was some other ones? Strength finders. I think we did some kind of variation.
We did but with all of them, we were quite different when it came to personality, and quite similar when it came to the impact that we wanted to have and the impact that we felt good about having. Like, what is it that we want to make happen? For us, that was it. And that's where we connected. And what I do want to have a look at is, so that was in 2020. And because you and I worked together, and I want to put it in a team context. Now, let's, like, a team, you can have 2 people. Think of it, you can have 2 co-founders of something, which you and I are, right? The game changing work.
We pretty much are our little mini world together.
Exactly. So you have, and because we worked together, we had the same profile when it came to, this is the kind of impact that we want to make. But here's what happened in the meantime. You and I have different scores right now, but the game changer grew. What happens with 2 game changers who work together and who support one another and who encourage each other? The game changer in them grows even bigger. And for you, the polisher kicked in, who has a lot to do with the promotion of things and with improving things.
I'm the one that does all our collateral on Canva.
Exactly, right? And for me, the implementer grew a little bit, just enough to, settle some tasks, to get some tasks done. And I find that to me is fascinating when we put it in a team context. That gives you an idea of what kind of impact you will be having as a team, and what might be some of the blind spots that you have as a team, and what's the energy there, what's the motivation. We talk about motivation and engagement so much these days, especially in a change context, right? Well, if you look at a team that has 2 high game changers, what does that tell you about how they are going to handle change, how they're going to adapt change, how they're going to lead change, and what some of the blind spots that they might be having when it comes to that?
Right. And I think one thing is to kind of look at our changes is really our dominant energy at the end of the
Yeah.
day. So when you look at some of these other ones, like the polisher, the strategist, all these different energies, they contribute to our dominant energy. And so that's the key thing, is where we naturally go is that game changer energy. And when we started the show, um, it was smaller. And I think you and I getting together, and I talked to other game changers, and those of you that probably resonate what I'm about to say, put it in the comments, like the show, because I know some of you are out there where you have all these ideas, you think differently, you really see the possibilities, but you don't feel like you have a space or a platform that you really feel like you're being understood and heard. And especially in organizations where there's they want to be a fearless culture, they want to be able to think different or to experiment. Game changers naturally are like this. We are actually the epitome of what every culture is trying to create out there today, in truth. We naturally go there. We're not afraid of being uncomfortable. We challenge the status quo. We always see possibilities, and we have the energy for change. Our change rate, if we look at it, is quite often compared to the average is around 5 to 7 years. With some of the studies out there. Now, we obviously need to be balanced by some of those pragmatic folks out there, and that's good. But we are the ones that are really going to drive that energy forward. And so when we talk about, and I shared the video today about envisioning the future and change and thinking different, we're the ones that if we go in that room and we go in that space, we're going to help you get there. We're going to help you see that, because all we see is possibilities.
Yeah.
And we want different. We just have the appetite for it. And so
Absolutely. We have a big game changer with us, by the way. Alex. Hi, Alex. And he said, yes, we
hello.
are.
Oh, see, now are you feeling what we're saying
Oh,
is
yeah.
we see things, and we have to. I've done like the lab profile, learning like language and behavior. I've done all these kind of things because I was trying to live in a world where others, it was just too much for them, and I
Yeah.
had to curtail like my language, my excitedness about something that might kind of freak people out because they're just not there yet. Like, have you ever bring something up where it's way ahead of the time, and it's
Yeah.
just kind of like someone goes, yeah, what are you talking about? Like,
Yeah.
or we're not ready for that. Whoa, 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 wait a minute.
That's the
So,
typical.
but in the space, you hear a
Yeah.
lot of companies talk about this fearless culture that allows people to express their ideas. And even if they're not the greatest idea, but they still want to be able to express them, this is a game changer. And so when Brene Brown, I'm going to watch that podcast. I tagged
Certainly.
you on it
Yeah.
with when she was talking about the Great Resignation and the
Mhm.
toxic cultures. Well, I can tell you right now, most game changers, they either have been and they've been smothered, or they're the ones pushing this Great Resignation because they realize it's too toxic for them to be in, that they're not appreciated to who they are and their wonderful game changing ideas, or wanting different, and different really isn't accepted and allowed in conversations, right? You people want the same. They don't really want to change. I mean, that's the truth. It's always don't rock the boat, right?
And
You ever
to
hear
be
that
honest,
expression?
exactly. Don't rock the boat, because why change things? Because that's how we've always done them. And to be honest,
Be patient.
exactly. But that's why I love the GC index actually started from the game changers, because of the game changers, because these were people who were high performers in an organization or in a team. They were very good, but they were very difficult to contain. They wouldn't necessarily follow the rule, or they would challenge the status quo. How familiar is that phrase today?
Yeah,
And
they
this
have a
is
whole
where,
case study on
right?
it if any of you are interested.
I
That's
mean,
that's how they developed this,
that's
was
how they develop
fundamentally
it.
from the game changer.
Exactly. And how many, and then we're talking about the great resignation, and we're talking again about motivation and engagement. How many of these people that you have in your organization that might come up with absolutely revolutionary solutions for your company are actually leaving the company because they don't have an environment that helps them share those solutions and whatever it is that they see? Because a game changer is not just about ideas just randomly, they can see solutions that other people can't. And that's the beauty of this, because with the help of a strategist, for example, a solution that a game changer absolutely sees, that can be explained from a more pragmatic perspective and put into a plan
Or
so that we
determined
can move
it
towards.
may be a not now idea, but it's a
Yes,
great idea, right?
exactly.
Or and not one all game changers alike, right? So yeah, we're going to talk a
Absolutely.
lot about game changer today because guess what? It was our birthdays. We can do what we want.
So yes.
Um,
And a
and
lot of them are ignored out there. So
yeah,
yes, to the game changers. Come on.
yeah.
Can we talk about that?
Yeah. So like Roxanne and ours energy, I always talk about I believe I toggle between the polisher and strategist. I bet if I take it again, I think it's highly situational of what's going on
Yeah.
in my life and what I want to do.
Mhm.
I really think those are two are gonna kind of switch back and forth. But what amazed me and we didn't address is how much our game changer actually grew since you and
Mhm.
I got together.
Yeah.
And I truly believe from the support and acknowledgement that there's others like us that you and I probably were, I would call our mini support group of embracing this game changer in us. I think for the first time in my life, since we started the show, I felt connected in knowing that it's okay to be this
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
And then we started meeting more and more and more. And Alex, you're one too.
Yeah.
And we all are different in our personalities, but there's something about this energy that makes us thrive. It excites us and it feels exhilarating is the best way for me to describe it when I'm around other game changers. One, my idea is never crazy to them. Whatever comes out of my mouth doesn't like freak them out. Like they're it's so accepting. I don't and some of you, if you're watching this and you feel that way where you might have a friend or some people that you can have the craziest like idea or thing that just comes and it's so accepting and you never have to worry about being judged because they don't take you either like literal, like it doesn't have to be like, oh my god, that's actually going to happen right now, or it's not clear, so then you're just a crazy nonsensical person. They actually just let it flow and let
Mhm.
it be, and it's so nice. That's the
Yeah.
best way for me to describe it. What about you, Roxana?
Well, I think, and exactly as you said, and we talk a lot about inclusivity, right? Diversity and inclusion and everything else. Well, this is what helps people feel seen and accepted, and this is what covers the three basic emotional needs that we all have, right? To be seen, to be understood, and to be accepted and valued, right? This is at the end of the day what makes us feel good about who we are and what we do. So whenever I feel exactly like you said, I felt seen and I felt understood and I felt like people are not judging me and they don't think I'm crazy, and they're trying to understand more about where I'm coming from or what's that gonna do for us and how what we can do about it. And that's absolutely, I think, compulsory to have, especially when you work in a team. Because if I'm not going to feel included and accepted, how motivated am I going to be? And for how
Yeah.
long, right? When we talk about motivation, we don't talk about extrinsic motivation, we talk about intrinsic motivation. This is the kind of motivation that lasts, right? And this is the kind of motivation that you want people to tap into, and they can only do that if they feel included and in the conversation and seen and accepted.
Yeah. And what I love about what we've learned and what I've learned a lot when especially taking because this is only individual sharing, but it's so profound when you actually look at an aggregate of team of a
Yeah.
collective energy of people but or if you see the lineup of groups. And a lot of times when I'm in organizations and especially lately, which I love that managers are trying to unlock potential and align people and have them do like maybe projects that they're more thrilled about and feel more motivated. However, it's a one-off treatment when there I honestly believe possibilities that there are other ways to really see, because ultimately maybe that person isn't in the right role. And what I hear a lot sometimes is, well, what do we do with them? And this is where I don't think it's a one person solve, or might even not be a one department solve sometimes, is if you actually knew the impact energy of certain individuals, you could probably help them understand how to unlock their potential in the different
Yeah.
career paths and roles, or the ways they can contribute in an organization.
Yeah.
So like we talk about, you might have a job function of X, but we have a strategy or strategic objectives and things that we need to do. We work in OKRs, for example, right? Key results are outcomes that you can actually say, oh, well, these collective individuals probably would be great to help with that key result. And maybe they can help with that. Right. And it might not have been the natural person that you would have thought, so that might be on a team already, or they're in a particular role, and maybe it's a good development opportunity for them, because impact is extremely important than even a strength finder, in truth, or some of these other things. Like if people are looking at skills and experience, it only tells you half the story.
Yeah.
I'm going to put all my energy in my game changer, on my skill development, helping me be a better person. Like if you think about your emotional intelligence piece,
Mhm.
I've noticed that I kind of shut down if I'm trying to be a better implementer. I have
Mhm.
no interest in it. I really don't. And I feel forced.
Yeah.
And so you
Or if
wonder,
that's required of me, if that's all
yeah,
that my role requires of me, I'm going to shut down. And perhaps I'm going to leave. I'm going to end up leaving for a role that's going to require something different, like that's going to require some I don't know, challenging the status quo, for example, or a different way of doing things, or coming up with new solutions. And I think what you said about the roles is so true. And also, it's important to understand, like, people are going to approach a role from these different perspectives, and from regardless, like, you have two people with the same skills in the same role, they're going to behave differently, and their impact is going to be different if
oh,
they're
very much so.
different, because they
Yeah,
approach it from a different perspective. And I think when we talk about flexibility, that's so important to understand. People don't want flexibility just because, I can work flexible hours or I can work virtually. When we talk about real flexibility, this is what we talk about. How flexible are the roles that they're in, so that they can really tap into this potential and into the impact, and they
yeah,
can maximize the impact that they can make in the same role. And if you look at the companies that do it best, they actually allow people, and people change the role. Like, the
yeah. They
role is
let them
the
go into
same.
different things to try
Yeah,
out. I know
exactly.
there's like a
That's
lot of
true.
programs when someone's new in a company, they let them move around, but why can't you
Mhm.
do that if you're already there? Right?
Right.
Like you have to be new. Now, here's another thing that I find interesting, that I've kind of learned, especially knowing, the proclivities of certain people, is that there's always growth and development to be better person and learning, your emotional intelligence. Don't get me wrong on that. But however, I always say it, to what extent? So say
Mhm.
you give feedback, that how we have opinion on that, advice on opportunities for them to enhance their person. Let me say it that
Yeah.
way. Hopefully that's right. And say they're doing something that maybe others, it's a little too much for them. There's up to a certain point of how you can do it better, with amongst people. But I also have to wonder, is there, to what extent is it making you change who you are fundamentally? And
Mhm.
here's what I mean by that. So if, say for example, we're game changers and we're always about ideas, wanting to do change and do different, right? We're always about different. Now we might come to the table like coming at you with a lot of new things, but that's our wheelhouse, that's our space. So if we're in an environment where people don't like that, and then you get, you get someone in the room, they're giving you feedback. Well, you overwhelm everyone because you keep coming with them with different ideas and da 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 da. Well, maybe you're in the wrong role. That if you actually were in an area that new ideas were welcome and it was a part of it, would that person be more fulfilled? while they're developing their skill sets and their emotional intelligence, right? Like I said, there's always opportunity to improve as a person. But to what extent, when it takes away your natural person of who you are, where you naturally want to make an impact? So when I hear that, I sometimes go wonder, well, how much are you going to make them do things that maybe that doesn't light them up just to suffice because the role itself and the environment they're in isn't really natural for them. It's the wrong environment for them. Maybe if you put them in a brainstorming, creative, innovative space when ideas are welcome all the time, that they probably would have a different feedback session. What do you think about that, Roxana? Do you
Oh,
think
for
that
sure.
conversation would be different?
Absolutely. The feedback will be different and the way that they feel will be different. And then their contribution will be different because they're not going to shut down. They will open up. And that's what you want. And you want people, you know how I find it so funny because we talk about, oh, let's help people bring their best self to work. And then whenever we have somebody who has maybe a ton of solutions that are super creative, it's like, oh, but when it's not the right time, it's not the right space, it's not that, or maybe they don't even get the chance to express them.
Oh, you're
And
talking about my whole career life.
ah, no, really?
Yeah, I always found that small startups and smaller companies were more open to my game changerness. But whenever I went into large organizations, in truth, and plug your ears if you don't want to hear this, but and if you also know what I'm talking about, give me a like, is that it wasn't as welcomed. And I had to kind of curtail it down and had to kind of because they're used to more sameness patterns. They don't change a lot. They're used to more business as usual. Their change is slow usually in these larger organizations because the complexity and so they don't really want game changing, if that's an appropriate word. But when you go to more of the smaller companies, they're used to having to change at a quicker, faster rate because they're all about growth,
Yeah.
right? And so you get companies, larger organizations that have desire for growth. And so then they'll spin up these innovation like departments and labs and they kind of like put those people there. But
Mhm.
everyone else that doesn't get to go there and they're looking from the outside in, kind of like window shopping, going, wish I was there.
Yeah.
They are feeling not, I guess, not thriving in the larger corporation. And what used to happen with me is I would go to a larger corporation to advance my career because there were more options and it looked good on my resume, but I would leave because I
Yeah.
never thrived there. And so
Exactly.
I would go to a smaller company where I felt so more welcome and warm with my ideas because they were changing often, right? Because they're in growth,
But
right?
here's the company culture that matters, and here's why. Even as an employer, right? You wanna get the right kind of people, not just for the role, but for the kind of culture that your company is all about. Because if you're a
We're
company,
trying to create.
exactly, exactly. So if you're a company that doesn't go through many changes, or like that, exactly like you said, right? It's, I appreciate the sameness. I appreciate I don't want the safe to fail. I want to keep doing things the way that we've always done them, and the change rate is very low. Then you don't necessarily want too many game changers in there, because for one thing, they will probably end up leaving sooner rather than later. And then it's not going to help
Yeah.
you do the things that you're after. So that's good to know. And then if you are going through change and transformation and you're missing some game changers in the team right there, you might want to get some, so that you have a more balanced approach, so that they
They'll
can
help shake
help
things
you
up
change. Exactly.
if you want to shake things up.
If you want, if that's your goal, if that's your objective, right? Because you talked about OKRs. What's your objective, and how do you
OKRs are all
know?
about growth and change.
Exactly,
Otherwise,
right?
I don't know why you're
So
using them.
so what kind of people do you want to lead that?
Yeah, and it's not like you only should have game changers. Let's make sure.
No,
What we're trying
exactly.
to say is because we are them, we understand them. we also are fascinated to talk to many of them.
Mm-hmm.
I think what Roxanne and I, you mentioned about people leaving. You and I have a theory, and what is the latest statistic of? I think, and I don't have the numbers, but you might, that the large percentage of people that are part of the Great Resignation are millennials.
Yes, they are.
And you and I believe that millennials, and I've talked to people like that their children are millennials or what might have you, or millennials themselves, that they haven't stayed at the same job. And so leaving a job is easy for them. They'll just go. And
Mhm.
so that's why when this Great Resignation, if they weren't thriving, something was a catalyst, you know. I'm sure when you're kind of hunkered down, you got a lot of time to think, or you're putting situations, right? So then, and plus also the ability with some jobs being able to remote, it opened up a lot of opportunities, moving to a different place or just leaving a job in general. And we think that there's a higher game changer energy there.
Mhm.
That's our theory. Now, I would love to get the data around that, but we at least know there's a large percentage of millennials that are part of the shakeup, as I'm going to call it,
Yeah, for
because they're
sure.
challenging. They're asking the question, "Am I thriving at this company?" And that was what I wanted to listen to Brene Brown's podcast, where she was talking about toxic cultures.
Yeah.
And toxic cultures can be a variety of different things in that description. But the word thrive, if you ever, when it comes to the game changer and it talks about the environments that you would be best in, are actually
Mhm.
ones that you will thrive in,
Yeah.
that are innovative, that
Yeah.
actually truly are wanting, this change. And so when
Mhm.
you're in an environment that isn't, when I would say just talking about it, but not showing behaviors and actions around it, like for example, new ideas and creating change,
Mhm.
and they're trying to muffle it down, that's not thriving for a game changer, is what I'm trying to
No, it's
say.
not because they won't feel. And I heard like in the context of the pandemic and then everything that's going on, it's just like there was somebody who said at some point that we can't really thrive until we feel safe again. Now people will feel safe, and all of this, like a game changer will feel safe differently than a strategist, an implementer, a
Correct.
producer, or right. That is how
Highly
whatever,
contextual.
yeah, whatever makes me feel safe. And for like, don't get me wrong, game changers can, like, they adapt to change, but they also prioritize between one change and the other. Like, they're able to do that, and they feel safe in an environment that allows that's more safe to fail. It's all about trial and error.
Mhm.
That's where a game changer will feel safe, as opposed to somebody who might feel safe in a fail safe culture, right? Where we don't, like, we just go by the book, and we keep doing the same things that we've always done the same way that we've always done them. And that, for an implementer, for example, that's the safety. And they will, of course, they will be motivated differently. Their energy will be different, their impact will be different. So it
Yeah.
really, environment and context is really all there is, especially when we talk about culture.
And I'm already getting excited because I'm already seeing the possibilities on that. Now, some of you might not know that you have the ability to measure a whole entire organization
Yeah.
to get a temperature check.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's different levels where you can do it at the individual, what you're seeing right here. You can do it the team, or you can do it by department, like the entire company. And so, if you are a company that is trying to create more of that fear, say that fear of failure, like removing that and wanting to experiment and do all those, you can actually take a temperature check to see what you're dealing with,
Yeah.
because you're really guessing right now.
Hmm.
In truth, right? You might know your people, you might not know, but you actually can take the data for a scientific fact and know what you're dealing with, or where in the organization that you have certain levels. And say if you are wanting to shift your culture, you can actually be strategic about it and use that intelligence and start putting in game changers in there
Hmm.
and start mixing it up. And so you can actually accelerate your culture shift by knowing how to mix it up more. And we talk about diversity. That's a diversity in its making, is really seeing if you have too much of something in an area, put some diversity in there. And what we talk about a lot in the GC index is not just game changers. It's every single little
Yeah.
five proclivity here is you want to balance.
Yeah.
But if you are trying to do something, remember it's outcome based and you're trying to really like shake things up, you would put some game changers in there. Or
Yeah.
if people are not talking and collaborating, you might want some more playmakers.
Mm-hmm.
But you actually can do this in an intelligent way and not have to guess so much.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised that you don't have to worry about roles. It has nothing to do with that. And personalities won't even get there.
Yeah.
Because there's something about how somebody wants to put their energy into something versus a personality, right? So, for example, you're a people person, Roxana. I mean, obviously, everyone loves you in that sense, but your energy isn't playmaker. Your
No,
energy is all
exactly.
about game changing.
Yeah.
So, if we put a playmaker in here, they're very different in the way that they would handle it because they're all about like people coming together.
Mm-hmm.
But if you really like if there was a playmaker game changer, right, they would be a little bit different from your game changing playmaking, right?
And I love that point because, for example, the reverse.
Diversity.
Exactly. Because here's the thing, as a personality type or communication style, you might be somebody who's very process oriented, but you might be a high playmaker. And here's the thing, like a playmaker will see all sides of the story and they will listen to everybody in the room before they make a decision. A playmaker is like this diplomat who's trying to manage conflict because before it even becomes a conflict, like I want to listen to everybody.
And not all playmakers are equal. We've learned that.
And I'm gonna back my decisions based on data that relate to who did what before. Like it's all related to people, but they're gonna base their decision based on, like, they're gonna make their decisions based on data. So that's like, and you can be very process oriented and a very good maker. So
yeah, it's funny. Getting back to like personality, because you and I are like, well, because everyone always scratches their head going, well, what's the difference? And I had someone that was a high implementer. And I think it was like an implementer with a secondary like strategist, if I can remember right. But the implementer is the important part because that's the dominant where things go. Her disc was all about people, like the related, like the part of the disc one that talks about that. And so she thought she was going to score high in playmaking and she didn't. And so she was kind of bummed. And I was like, well, let's talk about that. Mm-hmm. And so as we continue to have a conversation, and I asked what really motivated her when it came to people, because she loved working with people. She started to realize through the conversation, it was all about the results she was helping them get to. Mm-hmm. Guess where that was coming from? Implementer, baby, implementer.
Oh yeah.
And so she was like, oh. So I said, how do you feel if you can't get to a result with them? Yeah, I don't like it. That's what, and then we continued talking about, that subject a little more just so that the light bulbs would go on. Exactly. But my point is, it's different when you take where people really will go and what they put the energy in. If you're a business person, you're all about the objectives, the strategic objectives that you need to do and the outcomes, right? Yeah. So this is highly about where people will get to action in relation to getting and driving to achieving them. Mm-hmm. And so it has nothing to do with personality.
Yeah.
And that is where it's a lot easier than a disc conversation. Now, when we're talking about, once we know that, and the discs and all these other things start to come in play, that's where the power is, when you start going deeper. And you go, oh, okay, well, I'm an implementer, but I love people. And then you have somebody else go, well, I don't really like people that much. Okay, let's talk about that, right? But we have our commonality that we care about results. See where I'm going with that?
And you can have a conversation where you understand where we're coming from and where everyone is coming from, because that's the thing with a personality test, that's more individualistic, right? And yes, it helps me understand you, but not so much because my personality is different. when it comes to impact and when it comes to energy, and when
The
you look
jobs that need to be done.
exactly, that's easier to understand, and it's easier for me to understand why you keep asking me the questions that you're asking me. And then I see it. Yes, of course you're going to be, for example, interested in deadlines if you're an implementer. And of
Yeah.
course I'm going to be interested in high quality if I'm a polisher. Of course I'm going to, and that's going to be a priority to me. And when it comes to the whole business cycle, that's good to know. And that's
Um,
something we can work with.
I kind of love our impromptu birthday special. If any of you guys are
Of
enjoying
course
it
we
today,
do.
you know what Roxana decided, said, it's our birthday. We're going to talk about what we want to. And so we did today. And I hope you're enjoying it. And yes, we talk a lot about the GCNIC, but that's what we do. We actually create solutions around it, and the reason why is because we really care about that voice, the contribution, the impact with people, and this is highly related to when it comes to business. And so it's oh, thank you, Alex,
Thank
lovely
you.
to see
Good
you
to have you
too, have a
here.
wonderful day. And so that's why we decided, let's talk about like our personal profile and like um, because we get excited about this and we love it. And so we always feel like we have to contain ourselves on our ideas around it, because not everyone's going to want to hear that every single live. So today was all about us, born to be us, right?
Exactly.
And and
And then, like,
and appreciating the game changer, because that's
yeah,
who we are.
yes. So anyway,
Eh,
if you want to talk to us more about this, we're happy to connect. So just email us at info@gamechangingwork.com and we'll just take it from there.
and foreshadow, it's coming soon. We are going to be starting a game changing work meetup,
Mhm.
where we're going to dive into more of change, teaming, game changing teams, and really, shifting. So we work a lot with OKR, so really creating the OKR culture. So many of you are working in HR or other different capacities. So we're going to talk a lot about the people and culture and change side and teaming aspect of it, which has things about the GC index that will go in there, but also we'll talk about other things around that as well.
Yeah.
So stay tuned, everyone, for that, because we're going to launch that soon. Our meetup. We figured we'd start simple, and then see what happens after that, right?
Well,
Um,
because we're all about helping you accelerate change. How about that? Like that comes as a
Imagine
surprise.
that change. Game
Wow.
changers.
Two game changers.
Our show's called Game Changing Work.
Yes.
So, and we figured a meetup would be more intimate than
Yeah.
these lives.
Yeah.
So that's why we're going to create it. Now we'll figure out like if it's going to be first time in evening, maybe we'll have some like lunchtime ones. We don't know. I think it's more we're going to go with the flow and
Mhm.
see what the energy is.
Yeah.
But we wanted to create more of an intimate setting, and that's why we're starting the meetup, because we've met some of you along the way. And a lot of it, a lot of you, I've talked to, hey, we're thinking about creating a community, and they're like, yeah, we'd totally
Yeah.
get into it.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do it, and let us know if you watching this. Let us know in the comments if you're going to be interested. But we're going to drop it. We probably will have a live talking about our meetup and
Ah,
getting people
sure.
to join and come, because we really want to create a community where we can really be more intimate and talk about the subjects versus these live streams.
Yeah. Exactly. And dive deeper into this because
Yeah.
it's gonna help. Like, and we know that it, and everybody that we talk to and dive deeper into this, it's just like, wow! Like now I understand some things, and now I understand what I can do better to maximize my impact, for example, and to help my team better, or it's just and accelerate change. And then in our meetup, we want to talk about so many things that are really all about game changing work and created that different future of work that we're proud of. So
And we'll
that,
see where it goes after that. If it gets
yeah,
bigger, we'll put it on a community platform. But we were just
exactly.
lo-fi
Yeah,
MVP.
yeah,
Meetup is very straightforward and simple. But we are all about having you come to the table, all the things that were brought up, you know, the people that we talk to, we always go, oh, we'll do it sometime. We'll do it sometime. Oh, maybe we'll think about a webinar. And we're like, forget that. Let's just have a meetup.
Yeah.
Let's not over plan it. And we will have these subjects and we'll dive into it. We'll have people that will share, guest speakers if we want, like, but it's all about changing the game of work, because we're all about change in that capacity.
Yeah. All right. That's it for today, I think.
That is all, folks. Thank you for joining us today. And we will continue to celebrate our week of Happy to Born to Be Us.
All right.
Game changer style, of course.
For sure.
Right. Bye, everybody.